Now at 5, reforming public safety in Indianapolis. It's what protesters have been calling for. The new steps just announced by Indy's mayor to move the process forward.
If the bill just passed, I feel like a lot of people can be able to go out there and find some type of good employment.
A landmark ruling protecting members of the LGBTQ community, what it means for millions of Americans. And RTV6 is lending a big helping hand to help feed Hoosiers struggling during the pandemic. And you're a big part of making it a success. How you can help when you go grocery shopping.
This is RTV6 News at 5, working for you.
Good evening, I'm Mark Mullins. Now at 5, he's heard the cries for change, and today Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett announced more steps to reform public safety in Indianapolis, including a completely independent review of police response during recent protests. RTV6's Cameron Riddle is live downtown with today's developments. Cameron.
Mark, good evening. Yes, the mayor is hearing those calls for reform, but as he points out, he says the city needs to take a look and see where we are before it's decided on where it is we need to go. He announced 2 new partnerships today, one that'll give a report card on how IMPD is doing with its response to the community, and the other which will review how IMPD has reacted in the past couple of weeks over the protests that we've seen in downtown Indianapolis. The new partnership between the city of Indianapolis and NYU School of Criminal Law will bring together community input, dialogue, and data to create a new standard for what justice and public safety looks like in Marion County. The mayor says this effort is not just another study, but rather a deeper look at the contributing issues in racial disparities, including health, education, and housing. He says all of that info combined will help create a better picture of Indianapolis and how the police department can take that information and also be better. The mayor says this is a step toward progress, but he is not considering this some magical fix to all of the problems Black Hoosiers are facing. Many of the problems, he says, should have never left the previous century.
We're trying not to suggest that this is a one-size-fits-all end of the conversation that needs to take place, but rather just part of a process that begins immediately, if not several weeks ago, and that will continue, as I said, the drumbeat toward justice and toward reforming the criminal justice system in Marion County.
And so there you have it. 2 initiatives. One, an overarching picture of where Indianapolis needs to go. And really the second, looking at where Indianapolis has been in the past couple of weeks with these protests. The mayor also announcing that the city would be reviewing IMPD's response to the peaceful protests as well as the violent riots that we have seen here in this city over the past couple of months. That investigation will be separate and independent from the internal investigation happening with IMPD and the other happening in the prosecutor's office. We're live downtown tonight. I'm Cameron Riddle, RTV6.
And Cameron, the recent protests are seeking to pressure police departments to review their policies, especially when it comes to use of force. The protesters have drawn thousands of Hoosiers statewide from the cities to the suburbs. Rafael Sanchez recently spoke to the state police superintendent, Doug Carter, about the protests. Here is part of that conversation.
There are calls for things like the end of chokeholds and other practices that may lead to the escalation of violence between law enforcement and the person with whom they're interacting with. Do you foresee that, sir? Are there policy things that you will tell the governor or that you are already taking into consideration or reviewing as you take a look at this discussion that's happening not only in Indiana, but across the country?
Absolutely, yes. We do not teach the bilateral neck restraint. We show the bilateral neck restraint. And we do that so that if an officer finds himself or herself in that position, they understand what's about to happen. Bad things are going to happen if you cut off the blood flow to the human brain, or if you focus on the front of the throat with a chokehold. We don't teach those. We do not teach those, and that the notion of that generally speaking, law enforcement is not trained, or that we're taught the chokehold or the bilateral neck restraint in Indiana, that's just simply not accurate. because we don't. Now, the only time that would be an appropriate tactic is in a deadly force encounter. Remember, decisions that have to be made in a split second oftentimes are criticized for months and years afterwards. So if a person's in a deadly force encounter, there's not much you can't do to survive that encounter if you're protecting yourself or someone else.
Raphael's interview can be seen and covered a number of topics making news right now. You can see the entire conversation with the state police superintendent on the RTV6 app and at theindychannel.com.
Well, I hope you had a good weekend. What a stretch of weather. You know, we were in the 70s, 76 Saturday, 76 yesterday, and still today, shy of 80 degrees. Now, that's not to say that we still can't eke out another degree, but a little below average. We're putting all that behind us soon, though. One little change. Notice we have some clouds to talk about. That's the level of excitement we have for any change. Clouds are spinning back into the state from the southeast. Don't think it'll bring any rain our way. Temperatures upper 70s, close to 80 degrees in most locations right now. Lafayette sticks out to the north and west at 86. And then as you look at temperatures through the evening hours, we'll drop to 71 with the humidity low at 10 o'clock tonight. We'll talk about the trend ahead. It's full steam ahead towards summer. There's that detail.
All right, we'll see you soon, Kevin. Thanks. After two run-ins with the law in the past year, today, State Representative Dan Forrestal of Indianapolis announced his immediate resignation as a lawmaker. The most recent incident came to light last week. At the time, he was facing preliminary charges of battery on a public safety official, 5 counts of resisting law enforcement, and 1 count of disorderly conduct, according to an incident report from Eskenazi Hospital Security. Forrestal announced in February he was not seeking re-election to House District 100. He released a statement which says in part, quote, "The time is long overdue for me to focus on my mental health and get myself well. We need to work together to shatter the stigma around mental health issues in the state of Indiana and address them with the same treatment and philosophy as physical health issues," end quote. An historic ruling today from the U.S. Supreme Court makes clear that protection from discrimination in the workplace extends to millions of LGBTQ American workers. RTV6's Troy Washington is working for you and getting reaction to this momentous announcement.
Sahara Miller is the transgender program coordinator for BU Wellness Network. She couldn't do anything but smile after finding out about today's landmark decision to protect LGBTQ workers from discrimination in the workplace.
I left a lot of jobs in my previous times because I felt like I was going to be bullied. I felt like I was going to be some type of stigma.
So she can relate to worrying about the consequences of being true to yourself while trying to hold on to your job and the risk of losing your livelihood. She says that hangs over the heads of so many.
Now, with the bill just passed, I feel like a lot of people can be able to go out there and find some type of good employment.
Miller says in order to protect her clients, she used to give them a list of employers who seem to be LGBTQ friendly. She's glad the law might make it so she won't have to do that much longer.
This is definitely progress. It's just one step further. I mean, just one step at the top. I mean, we have a long way to go.
In a 6-3 vote, history was made by the Supreme Court. The decision was hinged on 3 different cases of workers being let go after their employer found out they were gay or transgender.
Like I said, I can be comfortable here at work, and I have to worry about changing my voice. I don't have to worry about, I don't have to have a lash on every day. But some of my trans sisters do have to worry about that. But now I feel like maybe that this won't be a big thing where they don't have to worry so much, and they know they'll still have a steady income coming in without doing anything additional.
Working for you downtown, Troy Washington, RTV6.
Now let's get to today's developments in the fight against coronavirus. Today, the state reported 11 additional deaths. They occurred between May 13th and yesterday. Deaths statewide now stand at 2,251. The number of positive cases has now topped 40,000 with the addition of 533 more cases announced today. That's about 125 more than yesterday. Also today, the health department gave its weekly update of the virus's impact on long-term care facilities. There have been 1,800 82 deaths in nursing homes, an increase of 71 in the past week. That's slightly higher than the previous week. 164 facilities report at least one death. That's an increase of 9 over the previous week. And coming up on the news at 6, some families say the state's newest measures are too little too late for their loved ones in nursing homes. The state's new plan to address the spread of the virus in those facilities is all new at 6 o'clock. Hoosiers are once again rolling the dice and pulling those slots. Casinos are back open in central Indiana. Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson and Indiana Grand in Shelbyville open their doors at 6 a.m. as part of the governor's Stage 4 reopening plan due to the pandemic. Both casinos will operate at reduced capacity with slot machines arranged for social distancing. Table games will be non-smoking with limited seating, and you'll be required to wear a mask. Live horse racing began at Indiana Grand about an hour ago, and it will start tomorrow at Hoosier Park. However, horse racing will be held without spectators until further notice. RTV6's Brad Brown checks out more of the return to gaming coming up here at 6 o'clock. Hiring Hoosiers is our commitment to make you aware of job opportunities of all kinds out there. Auto insurance company Geico is hiring 165 customer service and sales representatives at its Indianapolis office over the next 2 months. Geico's 1,400 Indianapolis employees are working from home, so all interviewing, hiring, onboarding, and training will be done virtually. New hires will also work remotely until the company transitions back to its offices. For a link to apply, look for this story on hiringhoosiers.com.
And still ahead on RTV6, we are live here at Kroger talking about our partnership with Second Helpings, how you can help feed Hoosier families.
He spent his entire NFL career with the Colts, and soon Robert Mathis will join a very distinguished Colts club that ensures he'll always be remembered. WRTV is teaming up with Kroger and Second Helpings and spending the next week focused on raising money and feeding Indiana families. RTV6's Stephanie Wade is live at the Kroger in Fishers now with more on this partnership and how you can help. Good evening, Stephanie.
Hey, Mark. Well, this is what customers are going to see here at checkout at any participating Central Indiana Kroger location. They have the option, if they so choose, to round up their order to the nearest dollar or make a $1, $5, or $10 donation. And all of the money here is going toward helping feed Hoosier families through Second Helpings.
Right now, the need for the work of Second Helpings has grown dramatically. The demand is such that there are people asking for food assistance who've never needed it before.
COVID-19 and recent events the past few weeks have created unprecedented challenges for many communities. Second Helpings says the demand for food assistance is nearly double than before COVID. So from today through June 21st, shoppers can make a donation of their choice at 46 participating Kroger stores, helping get meals in the hands of those struggling to put food on the table.
I think it's always important to donate. I always, they have like the pet ones at Petco and they have this one here. So I always just say yes because I feel like I'm fortunate enough to be able to do it.
And it's been really encouraging seeing people make their donations here today. And WRTV is actually going to make a $12,000 donation to match to help with this effort. But we still need your help. So you can make, again, the donation right here at checkout, or you can go online at theindychannel.com/feedinghoosiers to make a donation there. For now, reporting live, Stephanie Wade. RTV6.
It's really that easy, Stephanie. Thank you. Former Colts defensive end Robert Mathis will receive the team's highest honor this fall. Mathis will be inducted into the Indianapolis Colts Ring of Honor at Lucas Oil Stadium on Sunday, November 22nd. The Colts are hosting Green Bay that day. Mathis is the team's all-time sack leader and played 14 seasons with the Colts after being selected in the 5th round of the 2003 draft. He played his entire professional career with the Colts. Mathis will be the 17th member of the Ring of Honor. If you love to hit the links and are looking for a new golf course to try, IU's new public course opened today in Bloomington. The Fowl course at Indiana University is an 18-hole course designed by world-renowned course designer Steve Smyers and Hoosier native golf professional Fuzzy Zeller. It's built on the site previously occupied by the university's original par 3 course and cross-country course. The par 71 course features 147 bunkers of all sizes and depths and 6 tee options. There are also 2 practice driving areas and a putting putting green. Safety guidelines and protocols are in place to protect against COVID-19. You must make a tee time in advance. Well, it certainly is a great day to get out and enjoy a round of golf out there. Picture perfect day out there, Kevin.
And it's one of these days, Mark, where it hasn't been too windy. So often when we've had a good combination of comfortable temperatures, low humidity, we've had very strong winds. Today, winds have been calmer. So let's rate the day. Let's put it way up there. You always have to save room for improvement, but quite a day in central Indiana with just a few more afternoon clouds into the eastern portion of the state because of the influence of some rain and low pressure down toward West Virginia. There is our steady climb, noticeable climb, and sustained warmer temperatures that are on the way. I may be a little low here Wednesday and Thursday. We'll wait and see. When the ground is dry like it is, because we've only had a trace of rain on any one occasion in the last 11 days. When the ground is dry, it heats up much more efficiently so temperatures can take off. 80 in Terre Haute, 77 in Peru. Temperature in Bloomington currently 81 degrees. New golf course awaits. Where's the warmth? From Minneapolis down through Kansas City, Little Rock, Arkansas. Then you get into the Central Plains and Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. Temperatures there will surge into the 90s. All right, you know how this works. You send me your pet's picture. I'll take them for a walk, figuratively, during my forecast. In some cases, why ask the dog to do anything other than what they're doing? In this case, I need to get in the pool with Gabby. She is relaxed in the pool on a little floaty. Temperatures today will drop into the upper 60s as we go through the evening hours. Bye-bye, Gabby. Temperatures tomorrow will be warmer. Already by lunchtime, we'll surge into the upper 70s. 84 the afternoon high with lots of sunshine. With this warm-up, it will take a while for the humidity to come back, so that won't be a big factor. 85 in Terre Haute tomorrow, lower 80s to the north. We'll kind of dial in temperatures for Wednesday. All we do is raise the bar a little bit more, set the stage for the warmest temperatures to arrive by the end of the week. And keep in mind, we've not officially hit 90 degrees in Indianapolis so far this year. Father's Day, of course, that comes up as we roll into the weekend. Temperatures over the weekend staying in the upper 80s to low 90s. What changes? Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we have to be patient if you want rain. Temperatures will be in the upper 80s through Sunday. Lower 90s on Saturday, and keep your fingers crossed if you want some rain. I imagine most of the farmers are done planting. They could use some timely rain. Life on the farm, Mark, is never in a state of perfection very long. It's either too wet, too dry. Sometimes it's just right, but you fight that battle. There's the 7-day forecast.
There it is, and summer's there. Thanks, Kevin, for that. For only the 4th time in its history, the Oscars are being postponed. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences said today that next year's Academy Awards will now be held on April 25th, 2021. That's 8 weeks later than originally planned because of the pandemic's effects on the movie industry. Movie theaters were closed for several weeks and new films were not released. The Academy's Board of Governors is also extending the eligibility window for films beyond the calendar year to February 28th. As more and more businesses open up, some customers are finding an unwelcome surprise on their bills. We're working to explain the reason behind the COVID surcharges.
Working for you.
Many people are coping with unemployment, furloughs, or just reduced income this year. So it can be frustrating when a business suddenly adds a surcharge to your bill for COVID-19. Consumer reporter John Mathis shows why this is happening so often now so you don't waste your money.
Next time you visit a restaurant, hair salon, or even your dentist, check your bill carefully. Many consumers are being surprised by a COVID surcharge on their bill, as high as $5 a visit.
Remember fuel surcharges back when gas was $4 a gallon? Well, get ready to pay a COVID surcharge at more and more businesses. FedEx and UPS are the latest to add a small surcharge due to their extra safety costs right now. Luckily, it's just a few cents. But Business Insider says a growing number of restaurants are starting to add a surcharge of $1 or $2 to bills, and diners are not happy, posting their unhappiness on social media. Doctors and dentist offices and hair salons have also been adding COVID surcharges as high as $10 for all the personal protective equipment and plexiglass dividers they have to buy. But from the Doesn't That Stink file, the fact your health insurance may not pay the surcharge if you're hit with one at the doctor or dentist. It may instead be an out-of-pocket expense, and if money's tight, that stinks. But in the end, someone has to pay for all that plexiglass and gear, and lawyers say surcharges are legal.
Before you decide to yell at your dentist, ask him how much all this COVID protection is costing them. You may decide it's worth paying for, so you don't waste your money. I'm John Mathis for RTV6.
All new at 6 p.m. here. Not only do they have to grieve for their moms, dads, and grandparents, they now blame themselves for their deaths. Heartbroken families are demanding answers after COVID-19 took their loved ones. And Call 6 Investigates is holding those responsible accountable.
We have lots of vulnerable people out there who have not already had the virus who are susceptible to it.
More than a dozen states reporting an increase in new COVID cases. Could Indiana be next? Next on the news at 5:30, experts weigh in.
RTV6 app on your phone or streaming device. This is RTV6 News at 5:30, working for you.
And now the news at 5:30, opening up and cases of coronavirus spike. It's happened in other states. Can we prevent it here in Indiana? The toll it could take if we don't. And COVID-19 testing is now available for everyone in Indiana, but the state health commissioner also adds words of caution that she wants you to hear. Chris.
All right, here's what we have lined up for you today. There are calls across the country to disband or defund the police. We visited a city that did it years ago. We're going to take a look at how it's working right now. Plus, many small businesses say the process of getting government loans forgiven is just too difficult. The change a banking group is now pushing for. Plus, we're talking about maybe a bit of a silver lining to this pandemic. Many of us getting more sleep, how you can improve the quality of your sleep going forward.
And first here at 5:30, several states are now seeing a spike in positive COVID-19 cases as many businesses begin to open back up and certain social distancing guidelines are relaxed. Governor Holcomb announced Indiana's numbers are trending down in a step in the right direction, but could that change? RTV6's Megan Sanctorum spoke with researchers to find out if we could see a spike here and what that could mean for some businesses.
Connecting with the community. That's what the manager here at Needhammer Coffee says this business was built on. But for the past few months, any sort of connection has been tough as they follow state guidelines to slow the spread of COVID-19.
We've slowed down our hours quite a bit for most of COVID, and we're closed for about a month just to make sure we were safe.
But now they're slowly moving forward as the state starts to ease restrictions. It's a positive trend for businesses in the area, but some are still keeping a close eye on what's happening around the country. More than a dozen states are reporting a spike in new COVID cases.
It's going to take some more data and analysis to figure out exactly what is happening, but I would think a couple of those issues with the reopening, speed, and the mask use they're probably playing a part of this.
At this point, Indiana has not experienced a spike in new cases. Some say it could be because the reopening process here has been slower than other states and more data-driven. But a spike could still be on the way, especially when we hit the final stage of reopening in July.
It's just something we're going to have to keep looking at with the public health data that comes in. And hopefully, like I said, if we were to see an increase, some other measures would be taken to encourage more social distancing moving forward, because we don't want to get back to the same spot we were in back in March.
She says those measures could include things like enforcing mask use and putting restrictions back in place for businesses across the state. Some say they hope it doesn't get to that point.
Of course, financially, small businesses to be told you can't run, well, you can't bring in business, you can't have cash flow when you get restricted.
So they're doing everything they can to keep the shop sanitized and their community healthy. Working for you, Megan Sanctorum, RTV6.
We reached out to the governor's office to see what they're doing to prepare for a potential spike in new cases and what sort of restrictions we could see if that happens. We have not yet heard back. Epidemiologists say the best thing you can do to help prevent a spike is to wear a mask and avoid large gatherings when you can. A reminder, as of today, anyone who lives or works in Indiana can now get tested at no cost at one of the state's testing sites, whether you're experiencing symptoms or not. State Health Commissioner Dr. Christina Box announced Friday that testing capacity has improved to the point that testing can now be offered to anyone. She knows it will give many people peace of mind, but she also wants to remind you to remember some very important points.
I need to caution everyone in again is that just because you're negative today doesn't mean you couldn't be positive tomorrow or even 12 hours from now. And so you need to conduct yourself always around others like you think you're positive, because you could be positive and asymptomatic. So that means wearing your mask, washing your hands, social distancing. That has always been my biggest concern about this.
You can call 888-634-1116. The number's on your screen. Or you can visit the Indiana State Department of Health's website to make an appointment at one of the Optum Serve sites. You will not be charged for testing, but if you have insurance, you should bring that information with you. Now here's Kevin with your Storm Team 6 forecast.
Thank you, Mark. Our Weather Now cameras will be our go-to option here over the next several days because we won't need radar. Very few clouds around over the next several days. Just cumulus clouds out there now. What you see now will disappear tonight once the sun sets, which is still a long time from now, not until 9:14, so you got plenty of time to enjoy this. 79, that's our temperature. Wind out of the northeast. It'll stay out of the east generally around 10 miles per hour as we go through the next 24 to 48 hours. See the little line of clouds, eastern Indiana, Muncie down to Newcastle, Rushville, Greensburg. That's from a system that's spinning southeast of the Hoosier State. Temperatures anywhere in central Indiana slightly below average for this time of year. Out the door in the morning, we're dry. Temperatures, they'll be in the 70s quickly by about 75 degrees at noon with lots of sunshine.
A victory today for equal protection for gay and transgender people in the workplace. The Supreme Court said the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits sex discrimination, also applies to sexual orientation and gender identity. Several members of the LGBTQ community were plaintiffs in the ruling. That includes Amy Stevens, who passed away a few weeks ago. An equal rights advocate and friend of Stevens says she is overjoyed by this ruling.
I think the dignity, the compassion, the care for humanity that Amy Stevens brought to her role as a funeral director, that's the job from which she was fired simply for being transgender. I hope that in this Supreme Court decision, we can all live into those values.
Tina Fetus, without an equal workplace advocate, says many companies already practice equal protection for gay and transgender people, but the fight continues for federal civil rights protections.
Today in America, transgender Americans are up to 4 times as likely to be unemployed and underemployed. LGBTQ people can be denied a rental home. They can face discrimination in terms of jury duty, in terms of public services and public accommodations. And so this is a piece of the civil rights puzzle, if you will, but it's not the sum total. We have so much more to accomplish.
The equality bill currently in Congress would provide LGBTQ people equal protections across key areas of life. Atlanta's top prosecutor says his office will decide this week on possible charges against the police officer who shot and killed Rayshard Brooks. 2 officers tried to arrest him Friday night at a Wendy's on suspicion of drunk driving. Video shows Brooks was compliant at first, but then resisted when officers tried to arrest him. He took a taser from one of the officers and tried to run away, and that's when the officer shot 3 times, striking him in the back and killing him. His widow is now calling for both officers to go to jail.
I'm scared every day. My children go out, my husband go out, my family members go out. I'm scared every day because I don't know what to expect. And this just really startled me because I don't even know if they're going to come home.
The Atlanta officer who shot Brooks was fired. The other placed on administrative duty. All right, let's get back to our lineup. A historian is weighing in on what's different now as racially charged statues come down across the world.
Endure service, a name you can trust.
Select Indianapolis public library branches are back open again as a phased reopening began today with some limitations to provide safety during the pandemic. Branches that are reopened today are the Central Library, Eagle, East 38th Street, Franklin Road, Hallville, Nora, and Pike. Anyone over the age of 2 must wear a mask. A library staff member will be at building entrances to limit capacity, and there will be a 1-hour time limit on public computers. On Saturday, the brand new Martindale Brightwood branch will open its doors to the public for the first time. Other branches will open on June 22nd and June 29th.
Across the country and around the world, statues have become targets. Although the push to remove racially charged monuments isn't new, protesters have taken matters into their own hands. In London, a Winston Churchill statue stands boarded up. This after other monuments, many of people who owned slaves, were vandalized and torn down. This weekend in New Orleans, protesters took down a statue to slave owner John McDonough. A Christopher Columbus statue in Boston was recently beheaded, another thrown into a river. Across the U.S., monuments to the Confederacy have been targeted.
There are a lot of people who express this concern that if we take down monuments, then we are destroying our history or removing our history. I would disagree with that. I think that that's not at all what's happening.
Professor Christopher Bonner says these statues aren't really about the Civil War. Bonner points to a speech from when a Confederate statue was erected at the University of Mississippi back in 1906.
The person who was dedicating the monument was very clear about what was being memorialized. He said that former Confederate soldiers, as valorous, as noble as they were on the battlefield, he said that they were more important for the work that they did to restore white supremacy in the aftermath of the Civil War.
Now, in these 11 states, controversial statues have been taken down or are scheduled for removal. Bonner thinks these monuments would be better served in remembering our history in a more thoughtful context, like a museum exhibit. All right, ahead in our lineup, as nationwide protests call for disbanding or defunding the police, we visited a city that actually did it.
We started with two main objectives. Number one was to reduce the number of crime victims, and number two was to make the residents of the city feel safe.
How they say things are going 7 years later.
And Keller, right now.
Much of the recent protests have centered around racial justice and police reform, with some even calling to disband or defund police. One city did it 7 years ago. Maya Rodriguez went there to talk to those who helped disband the department, those who became new police officers, and those who say this city still has a long way to go.
Across the river from Philadelphia sits the nearly 200-year-old city of Camden, New Jersey, at one time called the most dangerous city in America.
It certainly has its share of challenges.
This city has been riddled with drugs.
About 74,000 people live here. 7 years ago, amid a budget crisis and a spiking murder rate, the mayor and police chief, among others, joined together and disbanded the city's police department.
We had 67 murders in 2012, which put the murder rate higher than some third world nations. So a change had to come.
Louis Capelli Jr. is Camden County's freeholder director, a job similar to a county commissioner. It's a position he also held when the city department ceased to exist, replaced with a brand new county police department.
We started with two main objectives. Number one was to reduce the number of crime victims, and number two was to make the residents of the city feel safe.
So what happened to the city police officers? With the union dismantled, all of them, from the chief on down, had to reapply for their positions with the new department. Not everyone got their job back, but Captain Zakeem James did.
Couldn't see myself being a cop anywhere else. This is my home.
But the policing Captain James knew then underwent a complete change. All the officers went through new training, focusing foremost on community policing and de-escalation.
Come on, we're here to help you. What is it that we can help you with?
Where the use of force becomes a last resort.
We stress interaction with people on a positive note. We reward that as opposed to just the traditional rewards for drug and gun arrest and solving violent crimes. We also reward officers for being integral parts of the community.
In the years since the changes, Camden's crime rate fell. Since 2014, violent crime is down 36%, and murders are down a whopping 72%.
How will you have a
But not so fast, says Camden County NAACP President Kevin Barfield.
Crime statistics throughout the state and the United States have went down over the years. So can we truly contribute that to policing or a police model?
He's also concerned that the county police department lacks diversity in the ranks. Minorities make up about half the force, and few are part of the higher ranks, in a city where 95% of the residents are either African American or Hispanic.
The problem is that the police department does not reflect the community that it serves.
And that matters a lot, says Dr. Naima Watson, head of civic engagement at Rutgers University's Camden campus.
We still want to see broad swaths of diversity in all ways, because until there is a deep cultural shift, not only in policing, but against systematic oppression of blacks, we're still going to have a fear and mistrust of the police.
County officials say they're working to address that, but add that the changes in policing in Camden shouldn't be discounted. As for cities considering revamping their own police departments,
give the community the opportunity to vote.
It's not one size fits all.
But this isn't going to happen overnight.
Words born of experience from those who've been there. In Camden, New Jersey, I'm Maya Rodriguez reporting.
The Indianapolis Zoo is preparing to open Friday as Marion County enters stage 4 of the reopening plan. Part of the safety plan requires that all guests and members get a timed ticket in advance by going to the IndianapolisZoo.com. It's available now to zoo members and will be available to members of the general public by mid-morning on Wednesday.
I think the animals miss us, Mark. You know they'll be on the lookout. The giraffe will probably be able to see you park and then come on into the zoo grounds. I think the orangutan probably miss us the most. I was reading they have great memories, so they'll probably remember you when you're back to visit here shortly. Okay, we all remember 70s. We've had them the last couple of days. There'll be a distant memory, though, as we get by the end of the week. I love these clouds. These are my favorite cumulus clouds. True humidity in the air. They fade away. Now you see them tonight, you won't. Those will dissolve once the sun sets and the cooler temperatures start to settle in. Temperatures tonight will drop into the upper 50s to lower 60s. They're sure forecast the next several days. It doesn't really change. Dry, dry, dry. Our next best chance of rain doesn't come until the weekend. There's your predominant wind direction out of the east. And remember, these are the gusts. So generally a light wind through the day tomorrow. Temperatures will respond to 83 in Peru and Bloomington, 85 in Terre Haute and in Richmond. If we look beyond and you're looking for a change, as I mentioned, that comes toward the weekend with our chance for a shower or thunderstorm. We'll take it. We need it. We haven't had rain across central Indiana on a widespread basis in well over a week. You may even see some dust fly when you're out mowing next time. I'll just keep going this way. All right.
Let's catch you up on the news feed. Black Americans are more likely to say they know someone who has died of COVID-19 or a respiratory illness since March. This is according to a series of surveys by NORC. 11% of black people in the U.S. were close with someone who died from the virus. Only 4% of white Americans have known a victim. Airbnb wants to collect more data on racial discrimination on its platform. So it's launching an initiative named Project Lighthouse. Airbnb is partnering with Color of Change to create policies and tools that will combat discrimination against people of color. The daughter of George Floyd, now a Disney shareholder. This is a picture of 6-year-old Gianna holding up a share certificate. This Disney share was a gift from singer Barbara Streisand. Kanye West is also stepping in to help. He set up a college fund for Gianna. Well, some small business owners say the process to get their Paycheck Protection Program loans forgiven is just still too difficult. Alexa Liaco spoke with a banking group pushing for automatic forgiveness.
It's more than a business. It is truly our lifeblood.
It's a story 91 years in the making.
I'm the third generation out of 5. We're really part of what goes here because we have a legacy that we're continuing.
A tradition of artistry.
Grandfather learned bookbinding in the King's Court in Copenhagen.
A family heritage Gail Lindley was desperate to save after COVID-19 slowed her business to nearly nothing.
There's an invoice in here from February 26th that we haven't been paid for. There was a lot of sleepless nights because we were wondering, how are we going to do this? How are we going to pay our staff?
But a government loan from the Paycheck Protection Program came just in time.
I actually cried when we got it.
Now Lindley is worried about the extensive requirements to make sure her loan is forgiven.
The bank had told us, you really need to document well.
The PPP loan forgiveness application is 11 pages long and requires companies to carefully document all spending on payroll, rent, and utilities. Companies must also prove they've retained workers and kept wages the same to earn full loan forgiveness. Consumer Bankers Association CEO Richard Hunt says documenting this is an unnecessary burden.
Right now, small businesses across the country are spending about $2,000 more and about 15 more hours submitting another additional set of paperwork. We're saying just forgive all those loans under $150,000.
There's only so many hours in a day, so it's really important that I want to spend it working on my business and not working filling out forms.
The Small Business Administration is requiring the most documentation for businesses who want full forgiveness. With the changes President Trump recently approved, businesses have 24 weeks instead of just 8 to use the funding, and only 60% of the loan needs to be used for payroll.
We can make that money last a little bit longer and be more thoughtful on how that's doled out.
These changes are helping many, but Hunt says more needs to be done to lift time-consuming burdens off small businesses just getting back to work.
Most small businesses operate at a very, very small margin, and any disruption in their business will cause them to go bankrupt.
For Lindley, she says automatic forgiveness would help a lot. She's just hoping all the bookkeeping she's done will be enough to keep her family's story alive. In Denver, I'm Alexa Liacco reporting.
Alexa, thank you. Now, next in our lineup, perhaps a silver lining to this pandemic, we are getting more sleep. How you can improve the quality of your sleep going forward.